Get40bucks.com. Welcome to Litecoin Leaders. Ask Me Anything. AMA for October 20th, 2021. This AMA is going to be on YouTube, so we will click here. This is going to take us over to the YouTube platform where Jeff should be live. And he is.
But Bitcoin being the big dog and 50% of the entire market, like the Kleenex of all crypto, so it could be 50% there, give or take, and then dabble in whatever coins else suit your fancy. But I see that there's a lot of upside for a coin that's well below a dime, and it doesn't take much to move it up to a dime. The market cap's not average to smaller, so I think it's got some potential. I can go. Let me hop over to CoinMarketCap real quick and take a look and see what the market cap of AMP is. I'm trying to remember offhand. I don't know if it's a top 100 yet or not, but I'll find out in just 1 second. AMP. So AMP is coin number 64. So that means it's got a pretty good hot market cap, which means it's got a lot of coins. But the total supply, the max supply and total supply, we're about half of it has been distributed. So the tokenomics aren't too bad. It's in the ERC20 coin, so there's a little bit of that fee there. But you can hold it in MetaMask as well. But it's getting a lot of support, a lot of traction, a lot of interest. So it's a good project. Okay. Scott, have any success stories of people borrowing against crypto and how they used it? Well, interesting you should ask that, Scott, because everything I've been hearing is that everybody wants to talk about that. And with Michael Saylor talking about borrowing your coins in the future, and that's the wave of the future as far as living off of your crypto, because it's an asset, not a currency. That's the way the IRS is deemed. And it's also, it can be really viewed as both, but I'm talking about Bitcoin. And that's what Michael Saylor only really talks about. Sometimes if you press him, he'll talk about Ethereum, but not many other altcoins. But for the most part, he focuses on Bitcoin and being what he calls the apex currency, the apex coin, apex investment overall. You can put it on a site like Nexo or Celsius. I prefer Nexo because you have a higher margin there, and you can certainly put so you can, like, when you borrow against, when you deposit, let me slow down. For those of you who are new, haven't seen this yet, but when you go into Nexo, you can deposit Bitcoin, and immediately when you deposit Bitcoin, they give you half of the current value as a credit line. So you basically, if you deposit $10,000 of Bitcoin, they give you an instant $5,000 credit line. You can borrow against that immediately. You can take out a loan, however you want, purchase more coins, purchase other things, or borrow against it straight up. And then the margin call on that, because you are really using leverage, but it's an asset-backed leveraging. You're not just going 10x of buying a coin and having an immediate margin call so that the risk isn't as nearly as much. So you need to do a little bit of math and just say, like, okay, if Bitcoin's at 67 today, I don't see it going below, say, 20. And then I can borrow, like, if I deposit $10,000 at 67K, it could fall about 70% and still not get below 20K. So if it falls 70% and then what you have in there, you can borrow that amount, 50% of that, and be comfortable knowing that if you deposited $10,000, if it drops all the way down to 20K value of Bitcoin, let's just say you put one Bitcoin in there for 67,000. Instead of borrowing half of it at 33, if it drops all the way to 20, the 50% would be 10. So then your margin level is really 83%. So your loan to value cannot exceed 83%. So you can go to 83% of what you think is the minimum and be relatively safe. So if you deposit 67K, borrowing 10 to 20% is relatively safe. Again, not financial advice. But that's pretty much what people are looking at. And then when you borrow it, you have a couple things you can do with it. You can use that money to spend, buy something else, or reinvest in Bitcoin even. You can borrow and buy the Bitcoin. So, and for more details on that, now my Patreon is the same thing. Just go to patreon.com, LitecoinLeader. I have more details of what you can do, something called reverse fractional banking that I made a video on, and I can add more to that. But that is something I have to put it behind a paywall. So it's for $20. You can go on my Patreon and join me there, $20 a month to get these access to videos. And if you want to have an individual consultation call with me, you can get a discounted membership, member-only call for the next 90 days, either 30 minutes for a $40 membership or a 50-minute call for a $50 membership, and it's a discounted call versus my normal rates. So all that stuff is in the description. All the stuff is on LitecoinLeader.io and LitecoinLeader.com. Well, LitecoinLeader.io is, I'm sorry, that's my YouTube. LitecoinLeader.com is where you'll find a lot more information, a lot more content, and how to borrow and how to leverage things. And also on my Patreon that's coming up soon I'm going to teach people probably next week how to turn their business card into a money-making machine. So in the last couple of weeks where I've been out speaking, I'm trying to find one here. There we go. So what I did is I put some QR codes on the back of my business card. So there's my business card. The back of my business card, I put the Cash App and my Nexo app on spots 1 and 2. Spot 3 is my splash page on my website. So this basically you can teach people that this is basically giving them money. Like, if you walked up to someone and say, "What you do for a business?" I give out money, and then walk away. Watch their heads turn and say, "Yeah, well, wait a minute. They'll ask you, and then when you explain, this is how to get $40 for free, just by following these QR codes, then immediately you'll get a lot of traction. And this card alone will probably jumpstart your business, add more adoption, and also pay for the whole Patreon. So that's something I'm going to talk about next week. All right. So got more people in the chat, so that's great. So Scott, hopefully I answered your question. Feel free with a follow-up. Let me take hey Jim, welcome. Hey Davey Daddy, glad you get to join. So hey, I'm just firing away at questions, and this is something that I do for my subscribers every week on Patreon as well. Every Wednesday, give or take my schedule, but pretty much every Wednesday at this time, I'll hop on to my subscribers and I'll do a Zoom where they can ask me questions and follow up. And it's probably one of the most valuable things that I do because we're building a community, and also you can directly ask me a question. And I try to give everybody on the call at least a shot at one question. We're not quite at that critical mass yet where we can get everybody in an hour. It's getting close, but that's what we can do. And we can certainly speak more liberally on Patreon and talk a little bit about things that we can't talk about on this particular platform. Hey, Manny, welcome. So, who else has a question? What's the next question I'm going to be hitting? And Scott, that was a great question. If you want me to follow up, just let me know. What else is on people's minds tonight? I know there's lots of stuff going on in the crypto world with Bitcoin hitting the all-time high today. So, oh, you guys have questions all day long, every time I see it, and now nobody's posting a question. Come on, who's got a question? Care to share any of your sell price targets, in my opinion? Well, again, this is borderline of, Manny, you're not disconnected. You can ask questions. Come on. Scott, as far as price targets, well, I can tell you what I see at Bitcoin, and then I can kind of go from there. I do some charting stuff, and I do that on my coin reviews, but I can do that more on my Patreon. Again, that's borderline financial advice, so you have to watch. But that's my interpretation of a chart. But my interpretation of the Bitcoin chart right now, which I can speak to just verbally, is that we just hit an all-time high, which is about comparable to where we were at the previous all-time high in the mid-60s. And we had a dip in the middle that got us down to the 30s. So that's kind of a cup shape on the daily chart. So I would not be surprised if we get the classic cup with handle pattern where we trickle down into the 50s range, we consolidate. And if you look at the chart here, if you do any technical analysis, if you want RSI, if you want to know technical analysis type questions, we can go there too. But there's a thing called the RSI, and the RSI kind of gives you an idea of overbought versus oversold. When RSI is hot, when RSI is high, it's overbought, and when RSI is low, it tends to be oversold. When it's overbought, it tends to go down to correct the RSI to sort of it goes to scale from 1 to 100 or 0 to 100. Right now, the RSI is very high. When it's above 80, it's considered very high. When it's below 20, it's considered very low. And it normally tries to get, it self-corrects to about 50. So right now, we're running hot. We're running high. The RSI is high. So that is another indicator that the price is likely to come down. So I see it coming down to the 50s and then probably shooting up to the 80s based on the cup with handle technical analysis that I've done. And I put that on my Telegram as well. If you want to be in my Telegram, please drop me a note. I will certainly give you. And also, if you want to reach out to me at LitecoinLeader.com, I have a free newsletter as well. So I give a lot of free content. I have free content here, free content on YouTube, free content on my website, which is now completely unlocked because everything that's behind a paywall is now going to be on Patreon. All right. Scott, follow up. But my question around borrowing was, do you have client stories you could share, like someone borrowing to pay off a car and the price of Bitcoin going up and paying off the loan full circle? I don't have that yet because a lot of people are like, they've been following my lead, and I've been doing this for a few months. So the Nexo space is red hot right now, but a lot of people are just hesitant to get in because they're waiting for advisors like myself to explain it to them in greater detail. And that's what I've been doing now. They haven't done it yet, but they're on the verge of doing it. So it's a little early to say that that's been done. Some people I know have done it. But the DeFi space is less than 2 years old. The Nexo space and the Celsius, about a year old. So theoretically, it works perfectly fine. But again, you are borrowing against an asset. So the lower loan to value that you create, it's kind of like having, look at the asset like a house. So your Bitcoin is analogous to a house. When you want to pay something off, sometimes you get a mortgage or a home equity line of credit, pay it off, and then pay off that loan. Same kind of concept. So it works. It's available. Nexo and Celsius are some of the first ones that go there. I like Nexo because they have a higher margin call rate, loan to value of 83% versus the Celsius 65%. So it's attainable. It's doable. I've done it just as experimenting. I did not put a ton of money into it, but I wanted to see if I could grow my Bitcoin balance, which I have. In 3 months, I doubled my Bitcoin balance. And yes, I have a fiat loan, but I really don't care about paying off the fiat because I think the fiat's pretty much garbage and it's going to be going the way of the dinosaur soon. Okay, so let's see. Did I talk about Litecoin and Digibyte? I have not. So I looked at Litecoin. Again, I can't really share a chart, but I saw basically if you look at the daily chart, and I say for the last 4 months or so, it looks like it's an inverted head and shoulders, which means it looks like, I'll draw it for my shirt. It looks like that. Then it looks a larger bump, and then it looks like that. So if you draw that kind of shape, the way that inverted head and shoulders work, you draw that neckline right across the top of those 3 bumps, and then the height of the head versus the neckline is about how much it should go up. So when I did that, it looked to be about targeting of 230 or 240. Last I checked, we were at 207. I haven't looked at the price this moment. I'm not going to as well. I'm sure someone can put it in the discussion, but I'm sure that I could see a near-term target over in the 230s, but long-term, the big picture, I remember when I started 4 or 5 years ago, I think it's 5 now, Litecoin to Bitcoin, the ratio was 50 to 1. So 50 Litecoin equal to Bitcoin. So now we're looking at, let's say it's 200 versus 60,000 or 67,000. So you're looking at, let's see, 5 times 67. So it's like 300-ish. Litecoin equals a Bitcoin. So it's a little bit out of whack. So I see a lot more growth potential in Litecoin versus Bitcoin. Digibyte, the concerns I have Digibyte, I like Digibyte. I see it as like Bitcoin's the grandfather, Litecoin's the father, and then Digibyte is the grandchild. Because they're kind of like they've evolved in that direction. And I like what Jared's done with the Digibyte. The problem with Digibyte is that they kind of ticked off a few people that run some exchanges like Binance, and they weren't listed on them. But now they're there, but now the liquidity isn't there. So it's very hard to put a large amount of money into that. So you really, to make a big price move, you need a lot of liquidity. You just don't have it for Digibyte yet. You also don't have the killer app yet that's out there that's driving the adoption. I get the structure. I get that they have 5 different ways of running their blockchain and managing it similar to like they're not SHA-256 exclusively, they're not script exclusively. They use all 5, and it's a nice blend. The architecture of Digibyte is strong. However, the price is not reflecting that yet because they don't have that killer app and mass adoption thing that's going to drive that price upwards. Potential's always there, but a lot of people just swing trade it, and they just they buy in. Then when the RSI is low and they sell when it's high, and that's the way it is right now until something really keeps up. So what I try to do is something like that, not financial advice, is I'll have like 2 bags. I'll have a trade bag and a hodl bag, and I'll trade the hodl bag and swing trade that. When it looks high to me, I'll sell it. When it looks low, I'll buy back. And the other one, I'll just hodl that Digibyte and just wait and see where we go. But it's a tough one to predict when it's going to move and where. So I do like the project long term, but it's tough. Let's see. Yes, Litecoin is undervalued. I agree, Tom. Manny, come on, give me a question. Davey Daddy, give me a question. Come on, let's go. New comments are coming in. All right, at least I figured out the technology here. I was able to do a live broadcast, so I'm a little happy about that. Hey, Papa Joe. Good to stopping by. I need questions. Good to see you. But people ask me some good questions. Scott's asked good questions with good follow-ups on the borrowing. I've gotten good questions on Digibyte and Litecoin. I like where they're going long term. And I see the use case for Litecoin is strong. I think that Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash are going to be the two that are going to be used a lot for transactions, especially if government starts scooping up and swallowing up all the supply of Bitcoin, which is going to be harder and harder to obtain. So that means the average guy for transactions is going to be using Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash. So what else you got? Nexo. Yep, we talked about Nexo. Nexo in New York. I've been trying to keep up with that. I know that Nexo is New York is one of the more difficult states. I just had a client that asked me about that and what we wound up, not financial advice, but what she told me as her workaround, she was able to borrow and get USDC out and then pulled it out and then used, I think, my over-the-counter, which is Coin Trading Company, which is also on my website. Or you can pull it out and you can use Simple Swap and buy more Bitcoin, but it's not as straightforward. And it's much more tricky in a state like New York, unfortunately. So that's that. Nexo is the nice thing about Nexo is it's not stateside. So you have that, and again, I can't give financial advice. I can't give tax advice. So we can talk more freely on Patreon next time. But New York is a tricky state. The good news is that my over-the-counter works in 43 states in the U.S. And recent news with Bank of America, they're not allowing overseas wires over 5,000 anymore, which really will hamper anyone trying to use Caleb and Brown as their over-the-counter. So Coin Trading Company is a great source to work with. Again, they're available in 43 states. You can text them, get a quote. They are looking at I've texted them some pretty small coins, and they were able to get me them. Maybe not the 3.5% what they normally quote, which matches Caleb and Brown's rate, which you can get through my website or my referral link. But for the smaller coins, it's some places won't even quote it. Like I had a client who wanted Monero. Caleb and Brown won't do Monero. They won't do privacy coins. Coin Trading Company will do it, no problem. So whenever you want a coin, you want to know what wallet you're going to store it in, and you have the address and how to get it. How to get it is often now an over-the-counter like that, if you're not familiar. Or you can use Simple Swap. This is not financial advice at all, but what you can do is that what I often do, and I've been doing it for a long time before I started using my over-the-counter more, is that I would get Litecoin or Atom, which are two easy coins to interact with and cheap to move. And I would just get those into crypto. And once you have that as a crypto asset, you can go on to Simple Swap on my website and swap that coin for another coin that's available in Simple Swap. And the fees are very low there. And you just put in, all you have to do is put in the amount you want and what coin you're coming from, and then we'll ask you what address it's going to send to, and it tells you, all right, send the first asset to this address, and they'll take care of the rest. And if you ever encounter an issue with Simple Swap, they have a help box right there on their website. It's very simple to do. Simple Swap is one of the better sites for swapping, and I've used them many times, and that's why I endorse them. I don't endorse I don't recommend or even have affiliate links with things I don't personally use. Thoughts on ETF and unlimited supply? Oh, now we're going to get into an interesting topic. So, the ETF. I watched an interview today. I think it was on Bitcoin Ben with the guy who's in charge of that. I think it's Mr. Hyman. Insert your own 12-year-old joke there. But I don't trust any ETFs because there's no underlying asset. It's like when you it's kind of like the U.S. dollar is not backed by gold. Like an ETF. It's like without the underlying asset, you're basically gambling. You don't have the Bitcoin that's really supposed to be the represented asset. It's really futures. But if you look at the banner that they hung up outside the SEC outside of NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange when they launched it, it didn't say futures on purpose, but it was like a strategy type investment. It's a future. It's a derivative. It's not really the underlying asset. You're far better off holding the underpinning asset. The problem is that Wall Street's behind the curve, and they can't get the underpinning asset because the liquidity's not there. You just can't get that much Bitcoin that they want. So instead, they're going to do something similar or try to emulate what a Grayscale or Viva Capital will do, and just say, if you want Bitcoin, sure, you can get Bitcoin, but for the ETF, you really don't own the Bitcoin. You're just having basically a tracking stock versus actually holding the actual stock or actually holding the actual coin. You want to hold the actual coin, and if you don't hold the coin, we originally started with not your keys, not your coins, but as we get to more and more mass adoption, more and more people are going to use custodians like Viva Capital, and I recommend them because they're fully insured. And then if you have them there holding your Bitcoin, if there's an error, the insurance kicks in. So you're not at risk, and it's a multi-signature wallet. But an ETF, nothing like that. It's just a tracking, basically a tracking stock or a tracking fund with nothing really tangible, or nothing really, I say tangible, but nothing really on the blockchain backing it up. So I don't trust it. All right, so where we got? Maggie, how you doing? Good to see you here. I borrowed using my Bitcoin as collateral from Celsius. Only paid 1% interest because of the loan. There's only 24% of my loan Bitcoin. But that's great. So yeah, you can knock down your interest rates. And Celsius does. So Celsius has some positives. They have a little bit longer term. But my main goal is to look at how much Bitcoin I can control on these sites. And I'm not worried about the fiat loan. As long as I don't get margin called, and I watch that kind of stuff. But when I think Bitcoin is low, when I think Bitcoin is high, like now, if I had put Bitcoin in when it was like 50K, I would have gone up to 67K, and I could borrow with more credit line, get USDC, and just wait on the sidelines with that USDC, waiting for a dip, and then just buy the dip with that USDC and getting more Bitcoin. Yes, it will have more of a loan because I borrowed against the initial value, but basically without selling Bitcoin to try bag back in, when you sell Bitcoin, you're trying to time the market, and you have the exposure. Like, let's say you had a full Bitcoin and you sold right now. Well, you have no Bitcoin. You're just crossing your fingers open for a dip. Instead of doing that, you can borrow against it somewhat and then try to capitalize on that price point now, get some liquidity, recapitalize yourself. And I'll explain this on Patreon, but I'll try to be general now. You have, say, 67K, 1 Bitcoin. You borrow half. Well, that's extreme. Let's just say you borrow 10%. You have 6,700. When it dips, you can take that 6,700, buy more Bitcoin. Yes, you have a loan for 6,700, but you also have now more Bitcoin. And then when Bitcoin goes back up, that loan looks much smaller compared to the future value of Bitcoin. So you're basically, it goes back to the assumption video I made on my YouTube a couple of days ago. If you agree with me that Bitcoin is a much more valuable asset to own than the US dollar, and the US dollar is going down, Bitcoin is going up, you want to maximize your Bitcoin at the expense of a loan in a fiat that's losing its buying power, because you're trying to acquire as much buying power in an asset that's strong going forward. Great question. Okay. Yep, ETF is a method to keep the big money in the stock market. I totally agree. Well, in the stock market, yeah. The stock market is artificially pumped up. We know that it's been pumping for no good reason. There's rehypothecation, which is a big fancy word for saying they sell more shares than exist. So they dump more money. The reason they dump more money into this is because of 401ks. People have their retirement vehicles, and they just go into the stock market because they've been told years and years and years that 11 to 12% historical rate of return of the stock market. Well, that's not outpacing inflation anymore. So 90 in an asset that's actually outpacing inflation, and the only one that's really out there is cryptocurrency. So that's why this is such a hot topic right now. All right, I purchased Aave for, okay. Aave, yeah, Aave is a good solid stock. That's a lending stock. Aave, interesting story how that came to be, but that's it used to be called Lend. Yeah, stock market. The old financial system, we have two financial systems that are at war with each other. There's the new system and the old system. The old system is trying to exist as long as possible at the expense of the new system. So they're trying to suppress the cryptocurrency, but cryptocurrency is fighting a good battle to try and get going forward. And then at the expense of the existing financial system, which they're trying to keep, most of the people that are involved in it want to keep it from being torn down, but that's why they keep inflating it with more, they're pumping and injecting more currency in there, which is losing more and more buying power because of inflation. And this is how the dollar dies. This is how currencies die, and we've just never experienced it in the U.S. No one alive has ever seen a world where the U.S. dollar has not existed. However, there's been other countries that have had currencies go away. The most famous one right now that people don't even talk about is the euro replacing the franc, the mark, the lira, all that stuff. Everything that's had it been in euro, they went to that unified, the European Union, and they got rid of all those currencies, and then they didn't accept everybody. Then Greece went under. Venezuela is going on under. El Salvador is going off and going on to Bitcoin. So currencies do fall out of favor. The average length of lifetime span of a fiat currency is 28 years. A fiat currency is a government-backed currency only. There's nothing behind that currency. So no currency in the last 5,000 years has lasted. That was a fiat currency, because you can see there's no more Roman coins. There's no more in circulation. There's collector's items in museums, but there's no more Greek currency, Roman currency, Aztec, you name the civilization, you name the empire, it's all gone. So we've seen a few extinguished now. We've seen, like I said, the lira, the mark, but all the fiat currencies are. This is the first time that we've had a global currency that's pretty much everybody's been tied to, with a petrodollar, and now we're seeing what happens when that dies. So it's not dying without a fight, because the people that are in charge of it, the World Economic Forum, the Bank of International Settlements, all those guys want to keep it alive as long as possible and keep countries having to pay for it. But in the SWIFT system and the other systems of settling between countries, the dollar is used less and less every year. In fact, it's less than 50% now. It has been for the last 2 years. So they don't want to tell you that, because they want to keep the dollar as being perceived as a stable currency, and it's not. All right. Who's got another question? We've got about another 30 minutes, so I'm happy to. I don't want to end it short, but I also want to give the audience people a chance to ask questions. And again, normally there's more questions that pop in here. Again, on my Patreon, I talk about more. I can talk about more stuff that I can obviously not talk about on YouTube, because I can't really give certain advice or even talk about certain topics, such as, what's going on in the world today. And also, but all right, so Manny, just tell me what you got for a question. I haven't seen a question from you yet. Give me one. Or anybody else. Or I'll just keep yammering and just talk about cryptocurrency in general, because I could do that. I could talk about how I was out at Utah and Texas and talking. And I'm going to be, I think I'm going to be in California again in March at another event. I just got invited to speak there. Shiba, the dinar was worth 3 times the dollar. What dinar? Do you know that there's multiple dinars? So the dinar, if you're talking about the Iraqi dinar, that's an interesting story, in that we haven't talked about the global currency reset, the GCR, as opposed to the Great Reset. So they are conflating terms on purpose. They keep using the word reset to try and get you confused between the two. So there's a global currency reset, and there's the Great Reset. The Great Reset is the one world currency path, where they're trying to get everybody onto one currency, universal basic income, Fed coin, central bank digital currencies, potentially social credit scores. Basically not good. But a global currency reset is good. And Tom, you're not saying what kind of dinar, because there's multiple dinars. And did you know there's an Iraqi dinar? Dinar means dollar in other languages. So there's lots of dinars. So the Iraqi dinar has been very popular to collect, because people think when there's an RV or a revaluation as potentially part of Nasar or Jassar, if you believe in that topic, which I believe that certain parts of it could be true. But I think that what we're going to see is I'm hearing people saying right now, and I think that Cliff I even said that, thank you, Maggie, I appreciate that. I'll talk about Utah in a minute, but I appreciate the praise on that. The global reset that they're talking about, it's going to happen when countries revalue another asset like gold, and right now I know that the other countries have looked at their current assets and their buckets of assets. So if we get to a point where we have a global currency reset, a GCR, or a revaluation, an RV, we will actually look at each country's valuation and just say, all right, your currency is now X versus what your current assets are. So that's how, like the Vietnam dong, the Zimbabwe dollar, the Iraqi dinar can be worth way more than what the current face value is. Last I checked, I think Vietnam dong was it was like $50 for 100,000, something crazy like that. And the Iraqi dinar was about, I don't know, $100 for 100,000. It was something like that. It's in that ballpark. So it's obviously you can get thousands for $1. But part of the reason that those numbers have gone so high, and what happened in Zimbabwe, what happened in Venezuela, is that they just kept printing more and more money until inflation got way out of control. You start talking about wheelbarrow money, where as soon as you get money, you need to spend it before they increase prices again. We are not there. I'm sorry, I'll talk about that in a moment. But we're not there yet. But if they keep printing money and the prices of things keep going up and up, and I hear lots of people talking about, somebody told me that pot roast was like $32. I mean, meat's going up, prices are going up. They are obviously trying to spin stories coming out of the alleged White House and that their alleged staff saying that, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Prices are up because people are buying too much stuff, and there's not enough goods on the shelves because people are buying too much stuff. No, I'm not buying that story. So, Iraqi dinar, the Iraqi dinar, 3 dinar used to be $1. I'm with you there, Tom, but now it's like thousands. So if they revalue it, and they've been talking about that for a long time with Iraq for over 20 plus years, same for Vietnam, and the international banks, the Bank of International Settlements, they've forgiven a lot of international debt for some of these third world country debts. They just forgiven them because we know you're not going to repay them. They just forgive them. That's a step towards a revaluation, which is part of Nasara. So Nasara's got a long history. It goes back to, I think the farmers were the first ones that proposed it because there were loans back in the 50s and 60s, I believe, that the government was trying to do, and they were trying to reclaim them, and the farmers said no. So there was a lot of initiative to, the national, I forget what Nasara stands for, but it was like a national act for the Equity Restoration Act. I'd have to go back and look what it stands for, but Nasara and Jassara, the N stands for national, G stands for global. It basically just means a lot of debts are going to be forgiven. And it kind of goes back to, if those of you who follow some of the religious documents, there used to be things called a debt jubilee every 50 years. Now, if you go back 50 years, a certain event happened in the U.S., which was bringing off the gold standard. That was exactly 50 years ago. If you go back 150 years ago, that's when the Act of 1871 was, and I can't really go into too much detail. I've lost several Twitter accounts going into those details. But if you go back to 1871, that's back when the U.S. became a corporation. I'll just leave it there. But certain events happen about every 50 years. So we're kind of due for one. And one of them could be that a lot of debts are forgiven. Now, I've heard, and I've had people like, I follow people like Pimpy's Investment Chat, which I think is a really strong channel, and Rice Crypto, because they talk about what they can prove, not necessarily what the speculation is. And Nasara has about 15 bullet points, and I'll go ahead and put them on my Patreon. I'll do that. But Nasara talks about debt forgiveness, currency reset, currency revaluation, distribution of value. And it gets a little bit more speculative after that. But a lot of the points have been hit. And then there's a phrase that was around called Trump-SAR in the last 5 years when Trump was in there. And there were many people where they woke up one day and their debts were gone. Like the student loans were forgiven. They don't know why, but they pursued it. And like $50,000 to $100,000 of debt or more gone off the books. So that's evidence that Nasara could be happening, could be coming. Obviously got sidetracked in the last 12 months, but it's still on the table. It's still possibly out there. And I think there was, I saw a story recently where there was a debt forgiveness thing that came out, I think in Ireland or Wales recently. So it does happen in various spots. So it's an interesting topic. Biblical times, 50 years, every 50 years debt was removed. So, and it's not every debt. It's not like if I owe Papa Joe $50, that's not going to be wiped out. But it's like if I owe a credit card company $10,000, that kind of debt would be wiped out, or student loan, or maybe even a mortgage. So those kinds of things, because, usury and lending, there are many camps that say, like, debts with interest are not legit. So that's part of the discussion. All right. So what else we got here? Tom, I really need to know about your dong. That's a joke. Vietnam's currency is called dong. So there's plenty of jokes there for 12-year-olds, or just people who think like 12-year-olds, which is most men. Let's see. What else we got here? QR code. Manny, you're giving me way too much to talk about, but no questions. Like, you can post like 20 times with no questions. Come on, Manny. One question. Just one time, Manny. Just one question. Nope. Still not a question. Manny, you're killing me. Davy Daddy, how about a question? Anybody else got a question on here? We got 20 minutes left. It's like pulling teeth with this crowd tonight. What's going on? Normally these guys have questions at the yin-yang, and I can't make them stop talking. Now they're just like that. There's no questions. Yes, Nasara. So back to Nasara. Try and get the book. Try and get the book, Nasara. And the author, Bernard. But his last name is Bernard. He's no longer with us. He was a professor who wrote about it. The book is out of circulation. You cannot get a copy. I once had a digital copy. I think I still have it. But the title of the company, the title of the book. Let's see. Draining the Swamp. That's the title of the book. That's the secondary title of Nasara, Draining the Swamp. So put those pieces together and just think about Trump Sara again. GZIL staking. I'm still investing in that. I found that I think G-Pool starting to do it. This creature from Jekyll Island. All right, we'll go there too. So the creature from Jekyll Island. When I was going to a meetup, when I was driving down through Georgia, I'm in Myrtle Beach, by the way, and I'll talk about my meetup next, so remind me about that. But I was heading down to Georgia, and I saw a sign that said Jekyll Island this way, which is really interesting. And I was like, oh, look at that. So there was a meeting in the 1910s. I don't remember the exact year. I think it was probably around 1911, 1912, right before 1913, right before the Titanic sunk, which is another story. And it wasn't the Titanic, by the way. It was the Oceanic. I think it was the actual boat. But that's another rabbit hole we can go down. I might have to do that on Patreon. But yeah, they basically had a sister ship, and they may, for insurance purposes, they may have, some people have speculated, swap boats, just to say, well, because the maiden voyage of the Oceanic didn't go so well. So they had, like, rumor has it that they planned to intentionally sink the Titanic, and it was actually the Oceanic, and one of the most historic cases of insurance fraud. But yeah, that's another story. As far as going back, Pimpy got what? He did lose some. But there is a Nisar Desar website that's out there. I think desar.org, where you can find a lot of these videos. Creature from Jekyll Island. Creature from Jekyll Island was an interesting book that told the story about the meeting of a lot of the powers that be and of the higher ups that were meeting that eventually led to the start of the Federal Reserve, which is not a federal agency. But it was designed to control the monetary supply and to bleed people dry through taxation and through inflation. And several people opposed it. The several people that opposed it, and I'm trying to remember some of the famous things. There were three of them. It wasn't a Rockefeller, but it was another one. I think it might have. Anyway, there were very high-powered people that were on the original maiden voyage of the alleged Titanic that went down with it. And those people opposed the outcome of the meeting on Jekyll Island and the start of the Federal Reserve. So, again, there goes back to the conspiracy theory of how the Federal Reserve started. And the Federal Reserve just happened to start the same year that the IRS started. So, another coincidence, if you believe in coincidences, or don't. Hedera hash graph and its consensus algorithm, patented, an interesting state of the yes. So I've heard a lot of people say, and I've talked to Joanna about this, who's my web developer. We've talked about Hedera hash graph, and some people really like it. I think it's an interesting technology, similar to the Tangle with IOTA was interesting technology. And it's interesting. So the Hedera hash graph uses a very interesting consensus algorithm and basically instantaneous confirmations by I think it's kind of like the rumor or the whisper, like it just whispers to the adjacent nodes and eventually just like the gossip. It's a gossip protocol is what they call it, and just the nodes talk to each other and so on. Eventually, just go, okay, when enough people know about it, we can say, yeah, that's good. Move on to the next block. The problem I have personally with that project is that Hedera hash graph is, as Papa Joe pointed out, is patented. So therefore, it's not open source, and therefore, Hedera hash graph, the Hedera project can profiteer by owning the hash graph algorithm. So, without it being open source, people can't audit it, can't edit it, can improve it, can't use it as for another project. So basically, you have to license it. So maybe if they put hash graph, the IP on an NFT and sell the NFTs as a license, I would be on board with it. But that's not what they're doing. They're trying to profiteer from it. So therefore, I'm not a big fan of Hedera Hashgraph. I'm more into bigger projects that have platforms where you can build upon them so you can get more exposure to a lot of different projects. Just to give you an idea of how many projects that have been in circulation, I started this YouTube channel on April 1st. There were less than 9,000 coins. Last I checked, there were teetering on 13,000 coins. That's roughly a 50% growth rate in 6 months. So why so many coins? Well, the liquidity pools, DeFi, other ecosystems and platforms evolving and launching more products like Cardano, Polkadot, Cosmos, ZIL. All of them are having hundreds of coins underneath of them. And that adds more and more coins to the pile. Plus, when DeFi, you have certain particular coins that are just used for liquidity, that are just only for the liquidity pool purposes. So there's another coin that exists. So I'm not saying these are the crap coins that are out there, but I mean, there's a lot of coins that the utility is very, very limited. They're specified or next to none. It depends on what the purpose is. But to get exposure to most of the market and play like most of the market, not financial advice, but you can be in more of these platform coins. Like, for example, I don't like Ethereum, but if you were in Ethereum, you get exposure to thousands of coins that are all ERC20 coins that are living on it. So if you invest in a coin like Chainlink, and I do like Chainlink, problem with the Chainlink is that you invest in Chainlink, you're also investing in Ethereum because that's the blockchain that uses underpinning the project. So if you're investing in a project that doesn't have its own native blockchain, you're investing in two projects minimum at once. So I know there's a coin that I'm looking at, a Cosmos project that Divvy Daddy and I are looking pretty hard, and they use Cosmos, but they're also like the Cosmos has the IBC, the inter blockchain. I don't know what the C is, but a compatibility. So it can work on multiple blockchains. So if you have projects that can span multiple blockchains, and that's really the next cutting edge is having blockchains talk to one another. That's why I like Polkadot a lot, because they have parachains that these are blockchains that talk to the native Polkadot ecosystem. And they can also create bridges that can go to legacy blockchains like Litecoin, Biitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. Basically you can invest in Polkadot and you can have exposure to all of the cryptocurrencies that they have exposure to on the Polkadot ecosystem, legacy or otherwise. Okay. Yes, I agree with you, Papa Joe. Open source is the reason I don't like. No one is going to use Hashgraph when blockchain is open source. Exactly. Like the barrier to entry is just too much. And yes, the technology is great, but if there's something I can use for free versus something I can use than paying a license, most people are going to use something for free. And then with it being open source, you can improve upon it, give it back to the community, but also use that as your own native blockchain style for your own project, and everybody can benefit from it. So you have the benefit of the open source community. Hedera Hashgraph is basically on an island by themselves. The most exciting thing that Divvy is involved with, well, there's three things that I like Divvy about. First off, the masternode staking is one of the best projects, and they have 5 different tiers. Also, the crypto made easy. I think as anyone that's a crypto consultant or a crypto influencer, as I am, knows that it's difficult for people to even comprehend what's going on, let alone get involved. And seed words, wallets, forever. I can see people. I had many people when I spoke in Utah, and I spoke to a lot of new people in Utah that are just getting started. It was great. I love talking to newer people because it refreshes just how challenging that is, and I want to talk to them because I want to be able to. In order for us to encourage growth and adoption, we need to get new people in. So we need to make it as easy for them to adopt and adapt to blockchain technology and use it as possible. And that's what I like about Divvy. They have patents. They have their Mochi, their masternode one-click cloud interface to launch a masternode. They got a patent on that, so other projects can use that because it's so easy to launch the masternode. You go open the wallet, you have enough coins, you can click, and then you launch your masternode, and you're done. You may have to pay a fee for certain applications on desktop, but if you use the mobile wallet, there's no fee. So it's very easy to use. It's also very easy, intuitive to send Divvy and to receive it if you know someone's phone number or their name, much like you can use when Zelle. So people know how to use now Zelle. They know how to use PayPal, Venmo, and that's where we need to see the space migrate to, so that people make it easy for people to adopt. Zelle, the banks use Zelle, and it made people more comfortable in sending between banking accounts or sending to other people. But with crypto, adopting something similar, like what Divvy did with their wallet, I like it. Third thing I like about Divvy is that they work really well with remittances, which is when you send money back to a native country. They're based in Latin America. There's not a lot of projects based in Latin America. Dash is really big in Latin America, and they are one of the first major masternode projects. And if you look at their growth rate, they went from a few dollars to $1,500, $1,600. So can Divvy do the same? I don't think it's going to quite grow that to like $1,500, but I think a 20x for Divvy over the next 5 years is attainable. And plus you get the masternode where you're earning 20% or more in your coins. And right now you're looking at about a 3 to 4 cent acquisition price. Not financial advice. I have to keep saying that, but I do like the project. All right, so Scott had a good question. On a crypto, let's see. And if I miss one, let's see. On a crypto-only phone iPod, how do you download a wallet app with an Apple ID in his example, or do you make a new one? I think the safest thing is to make a new one. But you can use the security is pretty strong on Divi. I would defer to Divi Day a little bit on there for the security, but I think that when I store crypto in a vault or a wallet type situation, and if you go on this YouTube channel and search my videos with the word security, the first video that pops up is my recommendations. Again, not financial advice, but I just share what I do, and I use an unlocked cell phone. And it only sees my Wi-Fi. So that way I'm not exposed to anybody that's putting out viruses for Treasure or Ledger. And it only knows my Wi-Fi, and I can use that as my vault. So I would put a Divi wallet or a Divi node on that vault, have it running in the cloud so you never have to have it on, and be done with it. That's how I would do it. So you can log into it and set up it. You don't have to have that cell phone. You have to have a new device name, and you're gonna have to log into it with an email anyway, just to download the applications, to download the wallet, download any wallets, Exodus, Trust, Atomic, Divi. You need a new ID, so you just go ahead and do that, use an unlocked device, and then shut it off. Just shut it off because it's running. You can throw it in your safe, you can throw it in an RF bag, whatever. So now you have multiple layers of security. It's not a standard device. It only knows your Wi-Fi. You can even tell it to forget your Wi-Fi if you're that paranoid. But you basically turn it off, and you throw it in safe, so you're blocking against any EMF type signals or EMPs. Let's see. Good question. Do I know about persistence? Yes, I do. Stay tuned for that. So we'll talk about persistence. I can't really talk about that in great detail yet, but I am going to do one of my infamous coin videos very soon on that very coin. I'm looking at persistence, and I'm going to try to have it out by Friday. But I've watched 5 YouTuber videos today. I made an interesting connection with that project, which I think is a fresh take on it. But let's see. But I do like the project. I like the rate of return. I like that you can stake it and get 30+% on it. There's not that many coins, and there's many intuitives that also like the project too. So there's that going for it if you follow that. I don't disregard any information source. Intuitives have been used for millennia. So if somebody's got a good feel for a coin and they've got a good track record, I mean, if you ever, I need to post a video on my Patreon about the history of knowing about Theta. I don't think many people know, but some of us, I guess we call them Theta OGs. I can say I'm one of those. How we came to know about that project. It's a very interesting story. I will post that video maybe later tonight or tomorrow on my Patreon, because I think I don't want to have it too widely known. Well, I'll have to think about that one. But yeah, I do like persistence, and I will be doing a coin video on that soon. Let's see. Hi, Trini, welcome. All right, Trini, come up with a question for me. I got about 7 minutes left, so I got time for about 2 more questions, I'd say. Where am I buying it? Kit, I don't know. Where am I buying persistence? XPRT, it's an interesting place to get. I think that Gate.io is probably the best place for common acquisition. There's not many places to get it. My over-the-counter can get it. I will say that. But the premium is a little higher than the 3.5%. So just be careful. But I've gotten some coins that are well off the beaten path, but they will pretty much quote whatever coin you want. And they will give you, if it's harder to get, there's liquidity issues or slippage, they will just go and increase the 3.5% rate and just price it in. And they'll just say, if you want this coin, it might be 4.5 or 5%. Which, I mean, if you're going to go, like, if you're going to try and find a coin that's off the radar and you want to go, and it's only available in, say, MetaMask or Uniswap, you would have to go get Ethereum. And that we know that's a painful process because the fees are high. Then you have to move the Ethereum to wherever it's got to be. Another painful process, another cost. They have to swap it on Uniswap, which is a really expensive cost. So it's much better to just go and say, hey, I could buy this for fiat with Jeff's over the counter. Talk to LitecoinLeader. Go to LitecoinLeader.com. Find my coin trading company link. Find it in the description here or in any other of my videos, and just go and get the coins that way. Like, especially for ones that are harder to get, and nothing. At the very least, set up this over the counter so you can do fiat and back. Because what if Coinbase or other exchanges are down tomorrow? They can still find a way. So The only limits on them are like it's a minimum $2,000 transaction, and it's 9 to 5 Monday to Friday Eastern. But I know Glenn. I've talked to him a lot. I talked to him a lot on the phone today, and I know Jesse, also good guys. They work with me well, and I have many clients that are working with them and have nothing but praise with them. So I really recommend them strongly. I've used them for several trades. Divvy Daddy, they gave you a reasonable quote. So over the counter. Let me talk about over the counter for a minute. So over the counter is nice to have because it's another path between the two worlds. There's two financial worlds like I talked about. There's the legacy, and then there's the new one, which is the crypto. So you need as many bridges between those two worlds as possible. Some of them could be like an exchange, like a Coinbase, but we know they play games sometimes. They hold your coins. They limit how much you can move on or move off. They may have KYC issues. They may even lose your coins. So that's one bridge. So you can use exchanges, but sometimes they go up or down, or they throttle you in some way. You can also use an exchange like Abra, which I like a lot, and I have a referral link for them that you can actually get. They're actually launching a new coin as well, and you can get an extra $25 through my affiliate link to get Abra. I like them because they're a wallet and an exchange, so that's a very nice option. There's always ATMs with their high fees that you can use. Let's see, what else? A Cash App. You can go with the Cash App. You can go straight through like a site like Nexo or Celsius. But having over the counter is really nice because you can pretty much call them up and do a straight fiat transaction. Now, for some of the other projects that I work with, like Viva Capital, if you're a higher tier member and you have a $10,000 or more transaction, they can get certain coins that are very popular but not easy to acquire straight for fiat, like Theta and Theta Fuel. That's not widely known yet, but I'm willing to announce that now. Theta and Theta Fuel are available directly for fiat at Viva Capital if you're a client. So check that out. Exit strategy, if you need to cash out quickly, I would go my over the counter. I would just say, hey, here's my coins. I'm going to send them. Like, tell me where I send them, and they will send money straight to your bank account within 48 hours or less. Barring that's assuming it's not a Friday. So keep that in mind. Do you have a video on buying or acquiring a crypto totally scrubbed of all personal information tied to the buyer? All personal information tied to the buyer. So you're looking at like a privacy coin? I don't quite follow your question. If you can rephrase, Scott, I'll try and get it before we close. We got about 3 minutes left, so if you get me that, I'm trying to think about that. Scrubbed of all personal information tied to the buyer. That sounds like a privacy coin. So you got the Nimble Wimble protocol in Litecoin. You've got Monero. But if you're doing stuff over the counter, I mean, the over the counter knows what you're doing, and you're working directly with your fiat and your assets, and you can want to buy a coin in a wallet not tied to me. So if the wallet's not tied in a wallet not tied to you, you need to have control of the wallet to buy the coin. So I don't quite, Scott, you might want to drop me a line over at you might want to drop me a link over at LitecoinLeader.com. Just do the contact me. I'm going to get the link for my over the counter, and I'll post that in a moment. Let's see. So first, a couple things I'll post as I close here. So if you've enjoyed this tonight and you want to do more of these, please consider joining me over at Patreon so I can keep the lights on and do more of these. There's my Patreon, and then we get the, let's see. All right, so coin trading. So it's right there. If you scroll down on my website just a little bit, there's coin trading, Simple Swap, and Nexo all side by side. So, and that's the best place. So go to LitecoinLeader.com and just scroll down. So I would just say, just go to LitecoinLeader.com and click on coin trading. There you go. That's your link. You just go right to LitecoinLeader.com, click on Coin Trading Company, and that's it. That's where you're at as far as getting onto your over the counter. Right next to it on the page is Simple Swap. You can use it right there. Next to that is Nexo. So I have lots of resources there. Last question. This last question for today: where to make an NFT? There's lots of resources out there. That's not really my wheelhouse, but I know that Wax is a very good area to do it. That's an area I'm looking to get into. I'll be talking I talked to Dylan Bradley a little bit, but I'm also talking to other people like the most famous one is probably Miss Teen Crypto, who I talked with. Utah. We both spoke it out in Utah. And if you go back, I just posted my Utah talk. It's about an hour. If you're just getting started, it was titled Bitcoin, an Intro to Cryptos. I covered a lot of different things. It's a really good jumpstart video. It's about an hour long, but it's well worth it. But NFTs, I would just, reach out to me, and also I reach out to people that are just doing it way more than me. You can't do everything in this space. So the people that are doing it well, that I rely on, I trust, and Miss Teen Crypto is doing that a lot. So Randy, shout out to you. I'll be talking to you soon. All right, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to call it a wrap. We've been here for almost exactly an hour. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining me on this free YouTube AMA, Ask Me Anything. I'll be doing more of these. I'll be doing them every week on my Patreon, except when I'm live here once a month. So if you want more of these, and you want to get even more questions, and you want to get more content and more access to me, please go sign up over at the Patreon site. That's patreon.com/LitecoinLeader. And I'll see you over there. So for now, I'm going to close the door of the bureau. See you next time.
For attending Jeff's live YouTube on the first AMA, Ask Me Anything, on the live YouTube platform. Anything that you're needing on Jeff, you can come to his website, LitecoinLeader.com. This is the website. You can scroll down. There is Jeff, also known as JeffPinnacle, his phone number, his email, and if you'd like to schedule a consultation with him, just click on the calendar and schedule. You can find Jeff on Patreon. He spoke of his coin trading, which is over the counter, Simple Swap, and Nexo, and Jeff's AMA. When you go through the website, we will discuss join the group, which will take you over to his platform for Patreon. There is Jeff. You can scroll on down to see all levels of his Patreon, and then you can decide what is a best fit for you. Okay, and then you can scroll down. There might be some videos that might be open. No, there is just the one. From there, we're going to scroll on down from his website. You can learn more about Jeff and where his meetups are going to be, where you can meet up with him. His next meetup is in Miami, Florida. These videos were made by Manny Crypto. Jeff mentioned him several times in his AMA. You can click over onto his YouTube account, and there is Manny. If you need any type of YouTube service as far as making videos and stuff like that, please reach out to him. We'll come on down a little further on the website. You can follow Jeff on Instagram, Pinterest, Telegram, Twitter, and YouTube, and his Patreon account. If you would like to get Jeff's emails when he sends out his newsletters and other emails, you can click, just basically type in your email address. Okay, and then after you click, you agree, then you click there, and then it'll take you over as a confirmation. On the side here, you'll see Jeff's Twitter account, where anything could pop up on the Twitter account. If you'd like to make monies with cryptos, please contact Jeff. You can do it in various ways, from setting up a masternodes or any other ways. Jeff has his Bitcoin Benz, the Founders Group. You can click over on there. And if you're not familiar with Ben, please, you can click over here. This will take you over to Ben's website, where you can also follow him on his social media. If you continue on through like Kelly's Corner, Kelly writes a blog, and you can read all of her blogs on Ben's website. These are the Founders Directory, the cryptocurrency entrepreneurs. This is the first meetup Ben had, was back in January, then the meetup in April and July, and they had one just here recently in October. Going to the unbanked. Where am I? Oh, you know why? I'm at the Founders Directory. Sorry, I lost what I was doing. But through the Founders Directory, I showed that through the website. You can go through here, tons of great information. Jeff was talking about coin trading. That's his over-the-counter. He also talked about Caleb and Brown, and then Viva Capital. He accentuated on coin trading and Viva. And just go through all this. And taking a little tour around Jeff's website, you can just hover over the Home tab. I went to the Resource tab down here, but you can check out all the information on the website. And when I clicked on Resources, over on the right hand side, you're going to see tons of links of just information on cryptocurrencies. Like if you wanted to learn more about Nexo, there's information on Nexo. If you wanted to learn about, what was he talking about? NFTs. There's the NFTs where there's been information posted on NFTs. And he spoke of Miss Teen Crypto, and you can go just YouTube that up. Memberships, that takes you right over to the Patreon account again, where you can sign up at the level that is fit for you. Get the $40. He talked about that at the beginning of the video, and it's get40bucks.com. And tonight we talked about that on his AMA. You can listen to the video here. And then again, talking about the coin trading, Simple Swap, Nexo, his Patreon account, and you can schedule an appointment with Jeff. Go back to the home. We're on his home website. And I just wanted to say thank you for attending. We look forward to seeing you again on Jeff's next AMA. Till then, take care and be well.